you very much. Good evening, and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for October 3rd, 2011. Tonight we do have a public hearing. First matter on the agenda is a public hearing for 279 Pawtucket Street. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Hawkins Real Estate, Inc. for a site plan review and special permit for a project located at the above address. The existing parcel contains 13,465 square feet of land, 1 3-family dwelling, and 2 parking spaces. The proposal includes the partial demolition and conversion of the existing 3-family building to a 2-family dwelling, the construction of 2 new single-family houses, and increasing on-site parking from 2 spaces to 8 spaces. A proposed approval not required subdivision would divide the parcel into 3 parcels where the existing structure in each new single-family home would occupy a separate lot. The applicant is seeking site plan review under section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning code and a special permit under section .4 neighborhood character special permit under article 12 on the table of uses of the Lowell zoning code. The parcel is located in the traditional mixed-use zoning district. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing Hawkins Real Estate, Inc., the owner of the property at 279 Pawtucket Street. With me is Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates, who's our project engineer. That notice kind of speaks for itself, but we are requesting site plan review and a special permit under 9.4. And we're also requesting a new special permit under the new zoning ordinance, which was recently passed, which allowed the reduction of the frontage under the new zoning from 70 down to 55. And there's also a request which we're going to hold until we go to the Board of Appeals for A&R approval, which isn't before you tonight, I guess. The property is zoned TMU and is located on the northwesterly side of Pawtucket Street, and it continues northwesterly down a slope towards the Northern Canal and the Merrimack River. At the present time, there is one existing 3-family home located at 279 Pawtucket Street. It is my client's desire to completely renovate and rehabilitate the existing 3-family by reducing it to a 2-family building by removing the rear portion. He's also desirous of establishing 2 additional lots located behind it, each containing approximately 4,500 square feet to construct 2 new single-family residential dwellings. The property also abuts Fall Street, which is a private way that's been established for many years, and I've submitted a copy of the land court plan that shows it in 1923. It is my client's intention, if this is approved, to improve the existing Fall Street to a 20-foot right-of-way. It will always remain private, to be used by the abutters on the property, and we also intend to establish a homeowners trust for the maintenance of both the roadway and the drainage system servicing Fall Street. This homeowners trust will consist of the 3 homes, the one on 279 Pawtucket Street and the 2 new single-family homes. They will be responsible for the maintenance of the roadway and also the driveways, because that was pervious pavement that we have in the driveway, so we wanted them to take care of it all. We've also submitted with our application a plan prepared by Gavin and Sullivan of the proposed houses to be built. As you can see, we've added some additional features which we think will enhance the neighborhood We've added some decks that make it look nice, so. We also have to appear before the Board of Appeals, and we're scheduled for the next meeting. In order to reduce the three-family to a two-family, we need a special permit and also need a special permit to build single-family homes in a TMU zone. And also, we need a variance for lot area and lot area per dwelling units on the existing single-family home. Representatives of the developer have met with staff and have made some changes, and they've addressed the initial concerns. It's my understanding that staff hasn't had a chance to review our responses and get back to us. But I will now turn the meeting over to Joe Pesnola, who can go over the engineering and the planning of this development.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, for the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates. Jim went over the basics. I'll just touch upon some of the technical aspects of the proposal. The roadway, Fall Street, is in disrepair. It's broken pavement, gravel. It did originally, it also provides access to the canal, which is down gradient from our proposed development sites. And the Fall Street does pitch down towards the canal. We're proposing a 10% grade, again, 20 feet of pavement. We're going to pitch that towards the new houses and put a new set of catch basins down at the kind of the end of our improved section of Fall Street. That'll go out into a infiltration area, underground infiltration pipes, which will be on the down gradient side of Lot 3. That'll be established as an easement, and the homeowners association will have the responsibility to maintain that system along with the roadway. We are proposing for that area to also be our primary snow storage area. We've made some changes from the original submission and in addressing the department comments, and that was one of them, snow storage. So now the additional pavement that we're proposing that kind of starts to go around the corner of Fall Street will provide us direct access to that lower easement area to be able to put snow there. The driveways for the houses themselves are proposed as porous pavement, and those, again, as Jim said, will be part of the maintenance and operation. There is a hillside there, obviously, and to meet the 8% maximum on the lots, we've terraced all three lots. So all three lots will be at kind of a different elevation. The existing upper lot will have a wall across the back property line. Then there'll be another wall in between lots 2 and 3. And each of the homes will enjoy fairly flat open space in excess of the required open space for each of the homes in accordance with the city ordinance. And all of that's been itemized or outlined on the plans that have been submitted. We have provided a detailed response to all the comments from staff, and we await further review by staff of those revised plans and responses. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
No questions at this time, thank you. Okay. We might have them shortly. Okay, thank you very much. Attorney Flood, anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn over to the public?
The only thing and I think it's probably in Joe's letter, I did submit to the board a proposed homeowners trust and a declaration of easement and restrictions to be applied to Fall Street, but that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Okay. Before I open it up to the public, does Craig, do you have any comments? I know you gave us quite a bit here on the last dates, and I know that indicated when we got the new plan that was submitted just recently, you indicated that, I know you haven't had a chance to look over everything. And I know also the engineering staff hasn't had a chance to look anything over. I know we have a couple of matters that you dated to us back in August as well as September. Anything else you want to add further? I know you've spent a lot of time on this, so I'll give you an opportunity if anything you want to say at this time.
It might not make sense to provide an update right now, but as questions arise, there was a meeting with the updated plans with myself, the traffic engineer, and the city engineer, and the applicant. So there are some details that came out of it, in particular, the feeling of the transportation engineer regarding the new road alignment, and the response from the city engineer to the stormwater proposal.
Okay.
And I'm happy to discuss those later.
Okay. Aaron, anything from yourself? I know Craig has been doing most of the work here on the checklist and everything else, so.
We can answer any questions as they
Okay.
arise.
All right, thank you. At this point in time, I'll turn the public hearing for anybody who want to speak in favor of the proposal. Just have your name and address for record if we could, sir.
My name is James McMorrow, live at 21 Leonard Circle in Lowell. Chairman, members of the board. I work for the Sisters of Charity at 267 Pawtucket Street, maintaining the facility over there. I have a couple concerns. I don't know if I'm off base. I understand there's some new information that's come across that I might not have seen or been privy to as of yet. If I'm off base, tell me I'm off base. I'm going to start, let's see, proposed lots 2 and 3 are below street grade at present. That's going to be backfilled with a retaining wall. What kind of retaining wall are we talking as far as the fabric of the neighborhood, concrete or anything like that? That was one of my questions. Lots 2 and 3, there's spacing between them. There's going to be 11 feet total between the two structures. One of the things I have with lots 2 and 3 is the reality of parking. I know the parking lots, driveways are for 2 cars. There are guests that people have a lot. And I was under the impression that there was not going to be on-street parking allowed. Where would they park? It's a pretty busy intersection. It's going to be redesigned, new traffic lights, crosswalks, and a road design as far as the lines and stuff like that. Where would they park? Let's see.
Let me see if Mr. Pesnola wants to try to answer a couple of those questions. Joe, could you try to answer those questions at this time, if you don't mind?
Sure.
You have another question?
I have a couple.
All right, okay, go ahead. I thought you had, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, yep, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lot number 2, to get the required TMU square footage, it needs to go the full length of the back of lot 3, 5 feet wide. As you can see on the drawing that's up here. Is there an alternative to get the square footage for that? It seems kind of absurd, and to me, on a personal level, it would almost kind of lend itself to bickering between neighbors. You'll see that it goes down to the canal. Now, on behalf of 267 Pawtucket Street, the backyard at present is below the grade of the street in some spots. Will the street be brought down to make grade? I understand, I heard that it was going to be a pitch that went to the storm drains, but how much of a pitch, where it's going to be paved now, water runoff is going to be a big concern for us. Would there be curbing on that side to prevent runoff into the yard? And this is probably the most big concern that I have as far as a maintenance man over there. The only way we get access to our backyard is through a gate, chain link fence that goes there, about 3/4 of the way down. If this turns into a private way held by an association, are we going to have easement rights? I don't know how that works, but I need to be able to get vehicles to the back of that building, and that is the only way that I can do that. I think the fabric of the neighborhood and the use of the lot is going to change, and I'm hoping that the board will keep in mind the historic nature of the lot and the houses that are there. I've seen the drawings of the houses that are proposed there. Quite frankly, I like them, but I haven't seen the drawing of what's going to be done for lot number 1. And that's the house that's in extreme disrepair. They're proposing to take down the back side of that home. That's a concern that I have. Another concern I have is, and it relates to the parking. Parking is going to be tight. The back stairs going from lot number 1 on the drawings that I saw to the driveway, I understand it's going to be a 5.2-foot drop. And from the drawing that I saw, it showed the stairs going down to the driveway. I'm just wondering if, if they should go parallel to the building. I believe the total run would project the stairs onto the driveway. I'm not sure of the footage from the drawings that I had, how much space was between the threshold and the driveway itself. And if they go into the driveway, the stairs go in the driveway, well, we're going to lose a parking spot or some parking for another vehicle. Lot number 1, no drawings and how the building would look. One of the concerns that I have too is lot number 1 being on the forefront of Pawtucket Street. Ideally, it would be nice to have that building done first, because I think it would help the aesthetics of the neighborhood, which have suffered over the past few years with the deterioration of this building. It would alleviate, I think, a lot of the neighborhood concerns as far as how that building looks. Will the homeowners association be all 3 lots? On lot number 1, we'll have one driveway that's on Fall Street, but also on lot number 1, we'll have another driveway that's on Pawtucket Street. That needs to be addressed. Will that lot be part of the association? If it is, then we have 3 lots in a homeowners association. What kind of effect will that have on the Sisters of Charity's property at 267 Pawtucket Street? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to provide some responses to his thoughtful comments with regard to the plan. Not in any order, but trying to work within the lots themselves. Regarding Lot 1 in the building, it's our full intention to tackle the building renovations for Lot 1 first, and would welcome a condition of approval that those be done before any work out back be done. We understand the condition of it, the impact that condition has on the neighborhood, and kind of want to prove ourselves by getting that house done first and done in a quality manner. We don't have plans, architectural plans per se. It's going to be a renovation. It's our goal to use hardy plank so that there's some decreased maintenance costs, but also some truth to the architectural nature of the existing building and the historic character of the existing building. We will implement some of the architectural details that are inherent to the original house and try to bring that back. The fluted corner boards and some of the other detail that was there and that is akin to the neighborhood and some of the other structures in there. I want to do a good job on that, fix that up, and have it bring it back to being an asset to the neighborhood. Lot 1 will be part of the homeowners association, so there'll be three homes there. We don't see that as being an impact to the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa. We see that as a positive thing. Their access down to that back area will be maintained by that homeowners association, will be improved, will be in no way obstructed or impacted in the least. We can't take the rights away from the sisters. They have rights in Fall Street. They can continue to enjoy those rights. The homeowners association doesn't impact those rights, nor does it impact the rights of the Commonwealth to access their land in the canal. What it does say is the improved section will be maintained, and will be maintained in accordance with this board's approvals. The exact details of the roadway changes, the grade changes are slight. As we said, we're going to pitch it to one side. There won't be any curbing on the high side on the sister's side, but that's because it's pitched away from that area. So drainage goes away from that property and into our new system. So we don't see any drainage impact to their property. And the grades along that wall will be maintained to the existing grades that are there now as we're required to do. As far as parking, we meet the required number of parking spaces in this zone for the dwellings, for the 2-family and the 2 single families. We have responded to the fire department's recommendation that we post signage on Fall Street for no parking. And guests are going to have to abide by those rules and find parking, legal parking in the city, just as anyone else has to, whether it's legal on-street parking or structured parking. As far as the strip along the back of Lot 3, we're trying to balance the maximizing of the building envelope to get the houses that we want in there that have the character that we think is important to the neighborhood. So that was the driving force. The additional area that's needed for Lot 2, we saw as providing a secondary means of pedestrian access down to the canal. And that's why we kind of configured it in that strip. Notwithstanding that, DPD staff has kind of raised the same concern and asked the question, is there a different way to skin that cat? Is there a different way we could configure the lots? And we'll look at that if it does continue to cause concern to the board or to the general public. As far as, I think I've touched upon, the retaining walls will be a segmental block. We haven't chosen a vendor for that. There's various vendors that provide these blocks, whether it be Versalock or Ready Rock, and we think they're aesthetically pleasing. They're going to be most visible to the residents in the homes, where we're stepping down from the street into the site. I don't think much of the wall will be I know the walls won't be visible from Pawtucket Street, and they won't be readily visible or facing directly towards the Sisters of Charity. So that's, I think answers. If I missed anything, please let me know, and I'll try to answer.
I just want to add one thing to it. As far as the homeowners trust is concerned, the common land is what they're going to maintain, which would be the roadway plus the driveways that are referred to as porous pavement. And the homeowners trust will take care of that. As far as the existing driveway at 279, that would be the homeowner's expense. And I think we agreed to work with the sisters in any way to provide them easy access to the back of their property. And I know that was a concern.
And just to confirm, they'll have access over this private roadway anyway,
Absolutely.
because it's
They have the right.
open to the public, so they'll continue to be able to utilize that to get to the back.
It's a private way, they're in a butter, they have those rights, yep.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor?
Sister Pauline LeBlanc, I'm the administrator of Bashar Hall, 267 Pawtucket Street, and I'm speaking for the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa who own the building. Many of my concerns have been addressed. I am concerned about the fabric of the neighborhood and the historic nature of that building. It has been an eyesore for some time. And if you drive down Pawtucket Street, it's the only eyesore. And we would definitely want to have that improved. I'm also concerned about the runoff on our property. I hear that, you're going to grade the road and have pitched towards the property, the housing, and have some catchment basin there, but we have a large property at the bottom of that hill, and I don't particularly care to have to deal with the runoff, so I'm going to be attentive to the way in which that road is going to be maintained. I find that back lot is going to be quite crowded. The space that is being used there is very limited. And as I walked down there this past week, and looked at the lot, I personally don't see 2 houses with 2 parking places each and adequate space around those houses. But I'll have to leave that to the planning board to decide if that's adequate or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, Jim O'Donnell, 54 Adam Terrace in Lowell. First of all, this is my first attempt at anything like this, so please forgive me if I'm not following the proper protocols. I came down here with the intent of speaking against the project, and now realizing I can speak against the project while being in favor of it, I've decided to come up at this point instead. But I'm not against the project or the concept of improving our neighborhood, and I think I want to start with that statement. But like the ones before me, the people who spoke before me, I do have a fair amount of concerns I'd like to share and let the planning board deal with it as they see fit. Obviously, we're all here to support any project that's going to improve the city of Lowell and the quality of life. But as a business in the community, and there's some other business owners here as well, we have worked very hard in that neighborhood to protect the character and population density of it, as well as the appearance of the neighborhood on that street. And I think most people would agree that, as Sister very kindly said, it's a pretty nice street in a challenged neighborhood. In regards to when it was purchased, we were under the impression it was a historic building, and therefore there were limitations on what it could be done, and that's one of the reasons it's been kind of an eyesore for a long time. Been very difficult for each of the owners to afford to bring it back to snuff, and one of the reasons that we were concerned, which was discussed by the engineer, was the concept of would the front building be done first? Because that is, to me, or for our particular interests, a key to the project. Obviously, the business aspect of the project, and I did speak to the developer, Mike Harkins, is, the way to do it is for the 2 buildings in the back, but if the front building isn't done, then that makes no sense to do anything in the back. So while we're excited about the rehabbing of the building, we're obviously concerned that the order of buildings is done properly, and you seem to have addressed that and said that would be a condition of approval, which is a fair statement to make. Because we feel if someone buys that 2-family and it's not been rehabbed completely to specifications of the historic board or the planning board or any other board, that they're probably not going to be able to afford to do it after they've bought it. That's why it was sold so inexpensively to start with. The second point is regards to the concept of a paper street or a private way, as Attorney Flood discussed. And that's a point of confusion in the sense that who owns it? We were always under the impression that it was referred to as a paper street, I guess referred to as a private street now, or a private road. And that was not part of the lot that was being sold at the time, so we thought that that would not be able to be used for any process of this project. But we've now learned that that is a possibility through certain permitting. And the concern we have is the rights to it, and the sisters have touched on some of those, is also who plows, paves, and maintains. And we've been told that that's going to be done by a trust of the 3 houses. And while that's a great idea and makes a lot of sense, I have some concern about 3 whole households paying for plowing, paving, and anything else that has to be done for the property for a period of time. So, you know, it's a great idea to start with, but in reality, is that going to be afforded by 3 units? Most of these projects will have roadways, have multiple units that share on a condo cost or something along those lines, and it sounds great, but is it really feasible? In regards to, and how does that private way get taken over by a project? And that's just a question of curiosity. That's nothing against the project itself, just curious how that part works, so hopefully someone can answer that for me. One of the concerns we have from our perspective as a business on that street is the congestion and the traffic, which some of you may all be aware, we're having a new bridge put in down the street. And as a result of that bridge, we've been working with the city as well as other local business owners in regards to a new set of lights that's going in at Fletcher Street, new handicap access, new sidewalks, lights and so forth. And then also, there are going to be lane changes. And currently, the front of our particular funeral home, which currently has parking, is going to be taken away for a right-hand turn lane. So there's now going to be 2 lanes on our side of the street. They're going to be taken for traffic, and I haven't seen the detail of the other side of the street where their property is, but I got to believe it's going to be consumed in some capacity because they're intending to have 2 lanes going that way. So I'm not so sure where this extra parking's coming from that's not going to be on property. So in the concept of does the right hand know what the left hand's doing, I don't know if the awareness of those projects related to the bridge are part of any of this plan. But those things are coming, they are being worked on by the city and the state, and we have, you know, drawings and had meetings with the interested parties in regards to that project. So as someone mentioned, I think the engineer mentioned that, you know, anybody that comes to visit would have to find, you know, legal parking in the neighborhood. There is very little parking in the neighborhood to start with, except for the businesses who have their own on-site parking, and the off-street parking is going to be reduced considerably once the bridge project is done. So there are concerns of where they're going to park, and is it going to impact, for our sake, our businesses. The third point is the lot sizes. The plans we've seen, and honestly, they are beautifully designed, whoever drew them, and over there as far as the houses and what they've kind of contained in them. They are tight. They're 11 feet apart from wood to wood, and I guess that's legal. I don't know that part either, but it just seems kind of tight to squeeze that in there, but if that's the way it can be, that's the way it can be. But just kind of concerned about that density issue we were talking about, because in reality, if you put a house there and you have 2 cars, people come to visit, it's never going to be just 2 cars. And even though the parking will be illegal on that street, you know, how's that really going to be maintained? So these are concerns that we have. In summary, not totally opposed to the project. I think the concept of fixing that property up is a great idea. I think trying to put it together with something else has merit. I don't know if it's too ambitious of trying to have 3 lots on 13,000 square feet roughly. And so that's the kind of concerns we have. And where it's been so strong on the historic, that's the other part I'm not quite understanding, how the requirements of the historic board are being met. And I don't know if that's a later piece, and maybe Attorney Fleck can address that as far as what's required on the outside and the inside for that building to meet code. And that's it. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sure, absolutely, Mr. Flynn. Sure.
As far as Fall Street's concerned, our parcel is a piece of registered land, and I've submitted a copy of the original certificate of title when it was originally registered, and it specifically says in there, there is a pertinent to the land hereby registered, the right to use so much of said Fall Street as adjoins said parcel in common with others entitled thereto. So that gives us the right to use it, and by statute, if you have the right to use it, you also have the right to improve it. So I think I put that in a prior letter to you, so that we do have those rights in the street. As to the historic, Jim, I don't know the answer to that. I don't think this is subject to historic approval. I don't think it's within the historic zone. It is? Is it, Aaron? I think Steve...
So this project has been debated with the Lowell Historic Board administrators. The entire parcel is not, in fact, in the historic district, but rather a rear portion as it abuts the canal, and that the entire canal system being in the downtown review district, which is the more comprehensive review than the neighborhood districts. The interpretation has been that any parcel of which a portion is in the district can be treated as entirely in the district. In this case, the Historic Board has thus far decided not to engage in a review on this project, given the spoken agreement to maintain the existing historic building on the front portion of the lot, on the proposed Lot 1. There is, if you look at the plans, a rear portion that is proposed to be raised, but that is a newer addition and deemed not of historical significance, or not of the same historical significance as the rest of the building. So the short answer is that the Historic Board could, if they chose to do so, take this up, but they have indicated approval of the general concept and the hope that we can adequately permit it through the planning board process.
I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, that we intend to work with the Historic Commission on the improvements. I guess it's, as Dean tells me, it's on the National Register, but it's not within their jurisdiction or something, but we don't have a problem if that's a condition of approval to work with them.
That hasn't come to us.
I was just asking Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Lockhart is our representative from the planning board on the historic board. As members of the planning board, we also sit on other boards in the city. So Mr. Lockhart said it hasn't come to their attention as of yet, but they can double check to make sure that whether it's going to be going there or not, maybe we'll have a definitive answer for that, if it's going to have to go before the historic board or not.
Yeah, I would just, if Steve and company have reviewed that and made those comments, I would still add, work with them as far as the architectural details to make it look as, nice as possible. It'd be a lot of help to you.
That's what we intend to do, and hopefully intends to get the work started over the winter before anything can be done in the back, so.
Does anybody else want to speak in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm the butter on the west side of the property. It's just a couple of things I want to address. We noticed on our
Can we
property...
just have your name and address for the record,
sorry,
please?
Scott Lauren, 295 Pawtucket Street.
What's your last name, Scott? I'm sorry?
Yep, Scott Lauren.
Okay, thank you.
I live there and I do work there. It is the Lauren Funeral Home that abuts the property. We do notice that on the hill where we are, our parking lot, the grade of the parking lot is significantly higher than the grade of where the lots would be. We're wondering if that's going to be addressed with some type of retaining wall or, I don't know, the elevation of the lots, if they're going to be raised to our level. I'm not too sure about that. Another thing too is we were also talking about during services, when we have parking, right, that's pretty much where house 2 and 3 are. Our parking abuts the backyards of those properties. So we were wondering if there's going to be some type of buffer, whether it's fencing or trees or whatever put there. So if there is, if they're out in their back decks, they're probably not going to want to see people in their cars, and vice versa. We're not going to want to hear noise of something going on while we have a service taking place at the funeral home. So those are our only two issues that need to be addressed, is whether or not there is some type of buffer between the properties and the significant drop in grade from our property onto the two existing lots that are proposed.
Joe, do you mind if I ask you to try to respond to that, if you could, please? Thank you.
With regard to the grades along there, there is a differential. On the top of Lot 1, there will be the garage will be raised, be torn down. That garage is a 2-level garage. The upper level comes in off of Pawtucket Street, and the lower level comes in around back. So at that location, the garage is a retaining wall. That'll be transformed, and there'll be as I said before, there'll be a retaining wall that runs between lots 1 and 2 across the back. That'll then tee at that point and retain the earth on the higher portion of the Lauren property. But as you move down towards the back, the grades kind of become the same, and then there's an opposite situation in which we'll have some additional retaining wall. We are going to fence in between the properties, and we can certainly work with the abutter to, if that's not sufficient for screening, to augment that with plantings.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the project?
Chairman, gentlemen, I'm Ann Romanowski. I live on Mount Washington Street, about 3 houses from the corner. My biggest issue is that I'm in favor, actually, of that house being renovated historically. I think that's great, because it's been an eyesore. But I'm in distant favor of the 2 additional houses because our area is very congested, particularly with cars. Most of the homes on Mount Washington Street were probably built in 1938, around about that time, and the houses were built on the property lines. So it gives you some idea that there's not too much land between those homes. On one side of my house, there is 21 feet, much more than there will be between those 2 homes. And I can tell you, 21 feet is not enough sometimes. Also, too, is the traffic on Pawtucket Street has increased. There are times when, particularly early in the morning, when you have school buses, et cetera, and people going to work. And then at the end of the day, when people return, that roadway is very, very challenged. It's very slow. It's very aggravating for me sometimes to try to get into Mount Washington Street or even to leave it. And on my street itself, there are many homes where there are 2 family homes, and you anticipate probably being 2 cars to each of those homes, and there are between 8 to 12 cars per house. It's not necessarily the neighborhood that it had been. It's very congested. And also, too, I question the intent of the association, because the maintenance of that roadway and the properties, even with an association, depends on the intent and the responsibility of the people who own the homes. Our street is challenged in that sense because we have many immigrants who don't understand property maintenance. So, that is an issue as well, which I've brought up to the Acre Association. And that also affects the area. So, with additional, congestion, with probably 3 lights that cars will have to go through, because you're not mentioning the lights that are on School and Pawtucket Street, and the lights in Fletcher, that's going to back up that traffic considerably. And beyond Fletcher Street, will there be lights also at the bridge? Then that's 3 sets of lights. I'm going to have to figure out what time I'm going to have to leave my house.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of public hearing is closed. Anybody want to speak in opposition? Anybody want to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. At this point in time, do any of the board members have any questions?
I have
Yes, Mr. Lockhart.
a question for Mr. Pesnola, really a clarification, Joe, I think. I thought I heard you say that you would work on the front home first. There are several residents here that expressed a desire that happen. Is that your intent?
Yes, absolutely, and I suggested that if the board saw fit to make that a condition of approval, we would be fine with that. It's our full intent to tackle that front house first.
Okay, fine. All the rest of my questions have been answered, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Shedd?
Good, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I must say, for so many residents speaking in favor, I can't recall so many issues being raised, and rightfully so. I think that's the challenge with the site. I think everybody agrees that seeing the front property rehab will actually be a benefit to the neighborhood. And when I look at the application of the neighborhood character special permit, one of the difficult thresholds is enhancing the neighborhood. And so we run into the balance of, I think everybody can agree in the room that rehabbing the property that is on Pawtucket Street, as well as maintaining the historical integrity of the home, will certainly enhance the neighborhood. I think Sister said it, I think it's the only building that's an eyesore in that section of Pawtucket Street. So I think from that perspective, I think that certainly is a plus. I think the challenge is the homes to the rear of the property. I also look towards the city's master plan. The other criteria for the neighborhood character special permit is meeting the intent of the city's master plan, and there is a specific chapter in there regarding waterfront property. And at least the rear home actually attempts to really take advantage of the river and the canal, and potentially has the potential to be a very nice, attractive property back there with the view of the river. The concern I have, obviously, is fitting that all on the site. In the configurations of the lot, I know Mr. Pisnola mentioned that they would be willing to take a look at how they've divided the lots. I think having a narrow strip of land along the back is problematic. It's been done in the city before. There's a couple lots in my neighborhood where that's exactly what was done, and the original homeowner who divided those actually created an easement to maintain use of that portion of the property, but was able to provide that square footage to meet the lot sizes. I would prefer, obviously, to see in an attempt to with a new subdivision per se, is to somehow configure those lots so we don't have that type of a situation. Also, I do have a question regarding the retaining walls, and unless I'm missing that, Mr. Pisnola, if you can go over what the height of those walls will be, and I know there was some concern in some of the comments regarding the height and the requirement to have rails. So can you just give me some idea of the height of the retaining walls that will be?
Yeah, between lot 1 and 2, the height will be 7 or 8 feet. That'll have a fence on top of it. They'll all have fences on top of it. Between lots 2 and 3, it's 5 feet, and then there's a lower wall between the drainage easement and the balance of lot 3. That again is in the 4 to 5 foot range. So they all require some kind of rail, or in this case, we're going to use fencing.
And what I would like to see is how that's going to look and what the material is going to be, because that's going to be significant. And to be honest with you, it can look very stately if it's done properly, but my concern is that it can also look like a concentration camp as well. So
we can provide those details.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And I understand the parking situation from a practical standpoint, but from a zoning perspective, it does meet all the requirements of parking. And I know that from a practical standpoint, if you cannot park on that right-of-way, I think it's going to be difficult for visitors to park in a public. I think the only place you'll be able to park is on Salem Street in front of Cody's Market and walk over there. I think it's going to be difficult. So I don't even know if that could be reconfigured so that, again, it meets, and I think people need to understand, it does meet the zoning requirement for parking, and that's a challenge when you go throughout that neighborhood, and I know even the funeral homes that are there. It can be frustrating because on some of those side streets, it's no parking, and so if you can't park in the parking lot of the funeral home, you're walking quite a distance to a wake. So obviously that is the challenge of that particular neighborhood. I think I think it would be to the benefit of the neighborhood if this can be developed. I think if it's done the right way. I think from even the sisters' perspective, I really think it looks like a situation that just invites trouble back there right now. The way it's set up, and it's very unsafe with the garage and the stairs that go up in the back. And so I think to have that develop would actually be a benefit to the neighborhood. But having said that, I think there's still some challenges to the site. We're still waiting for comments from the city departments regarding the revisions, and I know as well as the engineering department. So I certainly would reserve final comments on getting those reports, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Attorney Claremont?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, as you look at this site, if you take it as a whole, I'd agree with you. You say, boy, it's tight to put in a couple more houses there, but if we're looking to do something with that three-family dwelling that's going to be reduced to a two-family and fix it and maintain it properly, the economics of the situation are probably forcing the case that we have, you know, two additional houses. So I think that's the difficulty of the site as a whole. That being said, I think it can be developed properly, and it can be a nice site. In terms of the generation of traffic, I think the traffic engineer really didn't have an issue with that. We're really talking about this private way having, at most, 6 cars coming in and out at any stage during the day, so I don't think he had a big concern about that. I did have a couple of questions, though, as it relates to the private way. I know we have a homeowners trust that's going to be in place concerning maintenance of this property, which would be to repave when necessary, to plow, to maintain the 3 parking areas of the porous pavement. And the fire department and other departments are recommending that there be no parking on Fall Street so that emergency vehicles can get in and out. But my question is, if cars do park on that street illegally, who has jurisdiction to get them out of there? Does the police department have the right to go on to that way and have them towed? Or is that responsibility of the homeowners?
I think that right could be granted to the city of Lowell to do that, like granting the city an easement to come on the property to correct a drainage issue if they don't take care of it. I think that can be done, but I never thought of that.
Well, I think that'd be an important issue, because the homeowners, you know, if they're gonna have company there, it's not to they're not gonna be asking cars to be towed out of there. And the
No.
fire department is absolutely gonna require that there be no cars parked there. So I think we need to look into how we can enforce getting cars out of there if they are in fact parked there. If the
Well, I mean, also the homeowners trust could hire a tow service to check it out on a nightly basis or something like that and tow anyone that's in there.
They could, I just
Yeah.
don't know that they would. I mean, I think it would be better if the enforcement would be left to the
The question I would have, Joe, is whether the city would come on a private way to do that. We'd have to check with the police
That's
department.
exactly my
yeah.
question.
Yeah, we'd have
If
to
they're
check with
parked
the
there
police
illegally, what do we do at that point?
department.
You know, the fire department,
Yeah, and if they won't do it, then I think we'd have to make arrangements with the tow service to come in and do it.
at that point, it becomes a safety issue. That's their requirement, that there be no parking there so that
We
the
did that on
emergency
another
vehicle-
project. We had a letter from a tow company that said they would come in and do it. Was it Roger Street or?
Bottom of, no, it was up on Princeton Boulevard.
Yeah, I remember we had that, yeah. But that's a good question.
No, it was up past, yeah. Past the Work Bridge, remember at the bottom of Dingwell Street?
Towards the end of Fall Street, the end of the property line, or there's a part of the plan that's designated mountable bituminous concrete curb. And I think I read somewhere that is a curbing that's designed to take some of the runoff and direct it back towards the lots and not towards the neighboring property. Is that correct? Is that?
Yes, it's sometimes referred to as a Cape Cod berm. It's asphalt, low profile. It's 12 inches long, 4 inches high at the high point, and it's easily mountable.
All right, so it's
Vehicle.
mountable because in theory, somebody could drive beyond that point,
The Commonwealth has
has the right to drive further. There's
So-
nothing down there, but they
But
could.
it also addresses the drainage issue of making sure everything gets into our system.
And with the homeowners trust, Attorney Flood, if that were to be breached, let's say, we've got 3 homeowners that are contributing towards this trust, and let's say that that were to be breached and the city would have to step in to do something there, to maintain something or do something. Does the trust provide for a mechanism by which that could be back charged to them and added to their taxes, or how is that handled if there's a
I
breach?
can't remember how I did it, but it can be put in that the town would have could, if they had to pay it, they could place a lien on the homes within the homeowners trust. I'm not sure I have it.
Almost like if they had to go in and clean out a drainage system, they back charge the
I
association.
can't remember. I can look quickly, but I can't remember whether I have it in this one, but yes, it can be done. They can go back and place a lien on the properties, like a tax lien.
All right, I know there's a few other things that have to be still reviewed, and I know that this matter will be continued for that purpose. I guess the updated plan set hasn't yet been reviewed and the drainage calculations, and I think at some point we have to have the homeowners trust reviewed by city council to make sure it's in appropriate form. Is that correct?
That's right.
That we normally do?
Law department, is it?
Yeah, law department.
Law department, I think, right?
Absolutely. If the board requests that, we can send it up to the law department to review and approve.
Yeah, be curious if we could discuss with them the issue as to if somebody's parked there illegally, how could that be handled?
Absolutely. Okay, but we can do both.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Just for people who are present this evening, what happens is when we get a set of plans, all of these plans have to go out to our 8 city departments, which would be the police department, the building department, the engineering department, the traffic department, planning and development, wastewater. And so every time they get a set of those plans, they comment back to us. What happened is, as a result of the comments that was made by Division of Planning and Development, Mr. Craig Thomas, who's here today with us, who works for Division of Planning and Development, they went and changed some of the plans to try to put the concerns they had on the new set of plans. So now when we have a new set of plans, we received comments from Division of Planning and Development that they haven't had a chance to go through all the new set of plans in detail, and we also have a comment here from the city engineer that they haven't had a chance to go through all the new set of plans in detail as well. Under our bylaws, we're not supposed to act until we've heard from all the departments. So we have had comments from all the departments prior to the old set of plans, and then when the applicant tried to update the plans to accommodate some of the concerns that those departments had, the new set of plans was submitted, but indicated that we received in our packet tonight, information was that the engineer didn't adequately have enough time to sit down to look over the new plans, to make comments on those, to feel comfortable, and the same with planning and development. That's why I asked at the beginning of the meeting if they had any further comment. So that's basically what some of the stuff we've been discussing about, like, why is there new plans, why is there old plans? So they tried to bring a new set of plans in, where now 2 of our departments want to look them over further. So having that said and done, I think I had just a couple of concerns. I think what everybody has said, the main concern is that the main house on Pawtucket Street is an eyesore, and that would be an improvement. Everybody else says that lot 2 and 3 would be, looks like it's gonna be kind of congested. Was there any consideration of just going with 2 lots instead of a total of 3? I mean, obviously, everybody says, it does look tight back there. I know planning board members have been up there, have looked at it.
I've been advised that the problem with it, Mr. Linehan, is the cost of renovating the front building is going to be so great that we need the 2 lots in the back.
Okay. So I know one of the question was basically about the parking, where we did have a letter, which we do have in our packet, about the fire department, no parking on Fall Street. And as indicated, I know the concerns, what people say is 2 cars, is that sufficient? Under regulations it is, but if you have guests, practically where are they gonna park? If you're party lot 3, the furthest down the bottom of the road, You could probably get away with people parking in front of your house because you wouldn't be bothering lot 2 and 1, because you're not being bothering anybody in the canal. So if they parked there, the party wouldn't be concerned. Obviously, if you're people in lot 2 and you're blocking, who's gonna make the call? Probably lot 3. So now you have lot 2 and lot 3 complaining about who's parking on the road, because they could probably figure out themselves who the call came from. Because lot 1, they probably won't be going down past lot 2 and 3, because they can just pull in and go to their lot alone. So that's some of the concerns. As Attorney Flood says, they also have to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a couple of, for a variance and for the total lot area per dwelling unit, which means under our regulations, they don't have enough land for per home for the dwelling unit. So that is something that they would need a Zoning Board of Appeals approval for. So just saying those things that I've said so far, I would be willing to hopefully continue this matter to our next meeting, which will be October 17th, to get the comments back before the other boards that have indicated that they received the plans and not had adequate time to comment on those plans requested for that matter going to October 17th. On that night, we'll also have our other board member back, Mr. Genman, who would be allowed to vote on this project as long as he viewed our meeting this evening and signs off on what's called the Mullen Rule. So with that in effect, for the site plan approval, they need 3 votes. For the special permit, they need 4, which is the neighborhood character. So saying that, I don't know if the board's concerned now, but I'd be willing to say if we make a motion to continue it till October 17th, everything that was said tonight would be part of the public hearing. The meeting would be continued and be an ongoing meeting. So those who did speak, I would let speak again if they had new information or anything new that came to our attention. But I think due to the fact that our planning staff and the engineer requesting that we continue out further so they can give us more information to act adequately on the matter, I would think that a motion would be to be put over to that date. Do you have a question, sir? Sure.
Mr. Chairman, may I just approach the board here with one more thing? As far as the access to the rear of the building and the parking issue that we've discussed, the only way I can get fire apparatus to the back side of that building, built in 1824, granted we do have sprinkler systems, fire alarms in the building, is through that access point right there.
Coming down Fall Street?
On Fall Street. That is a very large consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Make a note. So let me, yes, Mr. O'Donnell, please.
It's more about protocol.
Sure.
If there are new plans, like when we were notified about the meeting originally,
Right.
we were told we'd go down and review the plans, which we did, and Craig was very helpful in that process. And I guess since then, there's been modifications or something, or new things have been brought into the plan.
Correct.
So the plans that we necessarily looked at in the beginning of this process aren't necessarily the plans that are now there. Is that a fair statement? I'm just asking, I don't know the process.
Yeah, I'm thinking, when were these new ones done, Joe? And given to us? Or when did you receive the new ones, Aaron?
This past Thursday.
This past Thursday. So if it was prior to Thursday, it would have been the old plan. We received these.
Right, so how do, this is more how
You're
it
saying-
works. This is more how it works. How are we supposed to know that this all happened? That there's new plans out that we didn't look at because we were looking at the original ones that haven't been changed?
So as of now, the new ones we got were as of Thursday. So if you saw it prior to Thursday, you saw the old one. So as of now, there'd be a new set in Division Plan and Development for your
Okay.
review. Right.
So that's something we want to look at before the next
The next meeting,
meeting?
if you'd like, absolutely. They could look at the new set of plans, correct?
Okay,
So what
thank
they
you.
try to do is, whenever they get the comments and feedback from the department heads, they try to go and address some of them on the set of plans.
Okay, thanks.
And as a result, some of our engineering and division plan and develop haven't had a chance to digest it all completely, right? So, anybody else have any questions?
Pardon me, Chairman, I just wanted to underline an additional point of access for that. All our plans are up on the webpage, so if you can't make it to the City Hall, you're welcome to go
On
to
the
the
webpage as well? Okay.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's one. Sure, come out to the microphone, yep.
In regards to the historic thing, because that was a misnomer, I guess, we were under for all these years, that was one of the problems with why the property wasn't developed, because it was in the historic, it wasn't in the historic district, it was a historic building.
Building, okay.
It had to be treated a certain way, and that's why previous owners could not afford to remodel it because of the requirements of the historic board. If that's not true, that's great, but that's what we were led to believe. And actually, when we were contacted about purchasing the property and spoke to the real estate agents, we asked that question and were told that yes, they researched it and came back and said, yes, that is true. So that's why this information tonight is kind of newsworthy to us, because we did not know that. And our concern all along has been that whoever buys it be able to afford to develop it. But if that's not an issue, then that's a good thing. But that was what we're always led to believe, so I'm kind of surprised it's changed or if it's misunderstood or something, and that's kind of a gray area. Is there a way to find out actually who makes that
What
call?
I'm going to ask them is, would there be a difference between, I mean, I know there's a difference between being an historic district and being an historic home.
Yes, if it's in the historic
If it's historic
district.
district, it automatically falls in the historic board review.
If it's in an historic district,
It falls in the
if
review
you
process.
tear down or build, it's gotta go before the historic board.
So if we have
it's
this
historic,
house,
Steve would know, but he signed off on it, apparently.
If it's a National Register home, there isn't any kind of review from the historic board. It has to be in a district.
Right.
Pardon me?
he said, can you answer again?
If it's a National Register building or home, it does not need historic board review. It's only if it's in a district.
Thank you.
So I guess the difference is between whether it's in a district or whether it's just a home.
No, I think my understanding was it was an historic home. I never
But
thought
if
it was
you-
an historic district.
If you follow the historic board's guidelines, from an architectural standpoint, then, you get the best of
And
both worlds, I guess you
The
could say.
request that they have for the special permit, which is a neighborhood character, we as a board could impose upon them to meet the neighborhood character of an historic home.
Prove that.
Because they have to meet the neighborhood character, and what everybody's saying here tonight, and the applicant as well, this is an historic home. If it falls in a historic home, it's an historic area, and the other homes fall in the historic area, that could be considered by this board as the neighborhood character.
I think we've agreed.
Right. No, right.
Sure, yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions? I'll take any other questions need be. If not, does any of the planning board members have any further questions?
Have none.
I just have one more, Mr. Chairman, while we have the representative from the Sisters of Charity here. One of the concerns in the earlier memo related to Fall Street not meeting the corner clearance, visibility being limited on the northern corner of Fall Street, and this memo urged us to investigate an agreement with the Sisters to an acceptable change, and it was the response we got was that the applicant has contacted the Sisters, and the Sisters were planning to remove a portion of the fence and will work with us completing the necessary work to remove the site impediment. I don't know if someone, is that in the works, or?
Yes, I have spoken with Mr. Harkins. Actually, it's not the fence. There are slats in the fence,
Okay.
which make it opaque. And we have talked about that at the proper time, we will make the necessary adjustments
Okay.
so that the visibility is better onto Pawtucket Street.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments by the board members? Not, entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until our next meeting, October 17th.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So what happened, we'll continue to the next meeting, it won't be publicized. It won't be advertised, I meant to say. But on that meeting, that night, if anybody wants to come down and speak again, usually what I allow to happen is, if it's anything you've said already, it's already it's in the record. It's like, basically, like a little court trial. Whoever testified first, we don't call them back, unless it's new evidence. If it's anything new to a new set of plans, then obviously we entertain information. And after further discussion by anything else, I'm usually very flexible to try to answer any more questions by everybody, because that way, hopefully, what our goal is to get the best plan for any project that comes before us in the city. So,
Excuse me, what's the web address to review that one more time?
Aaron, the web address they can look it up on?
It's pretty long, actually. So the best thing to do is if you could write your email address on the sign-in sheet, we'll email it to you directly.
Okay, great, thank you.
So the matter will be on for October 17th for continuation of the public hearing.
What's that?
Just give me 2 seconds before you go.
No, yeah.
interesting project. I think this could really look nice. If you do it right.
Oh, I did.
Retaining walls are the right materials. They look good.
Did you get one?
Okay. Huh? Yeah, they look all right. It's good development. Yeah, it is, that's right. Oh, boy.
Yes, I'm going to be very quick. Mr. Pesnola has to get out of here. I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can turn it over to Joe. Okay. Is Mina going to speak, Rob? Is Mina going to speak?
Okay, moving along, the next matter on the agenda is a pre-application review for 305-327 Gorham Street. Excuse me. The following individuals have requested the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed above. This is not a public hearing. The planning board will render no decision related to site plan review, nor guarantees any future decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that receives pre-application review. Project again is located at 305-327 Gorham Street. The applicant is the Coalition for a Better Acre. The project construction of a 48-unit rental apartment building on approximately 50,000 square foot site bordered by South Street, Gorham Street, and Father Rowan Terrace. The development includes the parking lot with 61 parking spaces, serving both the rental units and the existing commercial building located on site. The zoning is traditional mixed use and requires from the planning board a site plan review under Article 12 special permit. May we hear the applicant, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing the Coalition for a Better Acre. With me tonight is Joe Pesnola, our project engineer, Madeline Nash from the Coalition for a Better Acre, Mina Jacobs from the Coalition for Better Acre, and Cliff Boma from Davis Square Architects. My client has an agreement with Cooney Development Corp. For the acquisition of the property at 305 and 327 Gorham Street, and it consists of approximately 1.2 acres. Their plan is to construct 48 units of affordable housing in 2 buildings on the parcel located at 305 Gorham Street. The rectory at 327 Gorham Street will stay and continue to be used for commercial use. We plan on doing this in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be 24 units in a 5-story building, and Phase 2 would be 24 units in a 6-story building. We will be filing with the board shortly for site plan approval, and we need 2 special permits, a neighborhood character special permit, and we need a special permit under 6.16 to reduce the parking because we're in close proximity to the public garage. So that will be done shortly. I'm going to turn it over to Madeline, who can explain the project, and then she'll turn it over to Joe and the architect to go over it.
Hi, I'm Madeline Nash, Director of Real Estate Development with the Coalition for a Better Acre. I think that Jim said Phase 1 was going to have 5 stories. It's actually going to have 6 stories. And Phase 2 will be a 5-story building. Other than that, like Attorney Flood said, the proposal is to construct 2 phases, each with 24 units, and that is in response to our funding sources, primarily from the Department of Housing and Community Development. This will all be affordable housing, deed restricted in perpetuity as affordable housing, which means that the majority of the units will be restricted to households with 60% of the area median income. To give you an idea, that's family of 4, income limit of around $55,000. So these are working families of modest means. Within that mix, there would be 25% of the units for very low-income households. So within the property, there would be a mix of incomes, but the majority of the units would be, as I said, for folks with 60% of the area median income. We have talked to the planning department about this and have received a commitment of home program funds in support of the project. We have submitted a funding application to the Department of Housing and Community Development in April, and we are waiting to hear from them about their decision. We have met with the neighborhood committee twice, and they have expressed their support for the project, and we're hoping to get a letter of support from them for the public hearing. And we've met with other abutting property owners and have only heard positive responses. As you can see, and as you may remember, the church was quite massive. And since its unfortunate demolition several years ago, the property has just been sitting there vacant. And we think that this new proposed use will add new life to the neighborhood and stabilize the neighborhood, bring up property values, and create lovely homes for the future residents. As Attorney Flood mentioned, the project also involves the preservation of the rectory, where the rectory is in excellent condition and is functioning well as a commercial property, and our intent would to be to keep it that way. The proposal involves 61 parking spaces, 48 designated for the residents, and 13, is it 13? Yeah, for the commercial uses. And as with our other properties, we have found that 1 parking space per dwelling unit meets the needs of our residents. There would be a small recreation area at the back of the property on South Street, but there certainly is a lot of recreation area at South Common. And we would try to design the property so that folks would have easy access to South Common and to the transportation center. We think it's a great location for the future residents. There's so many amenities nearby. And we think that will make it a competitive application to the state funding sources. Just one last note, because this property is in the historic district, we did spend a lot of time working with the historic board, and we got some very positive input from them, and we think that the design is much stronger as a result. And we look forward to continuing to work with them and getting their input, but we have worked closely with our architect to come up with a design that we think is supportive of the surrounding uses. Joe?
This on? Again, for the record, Mr. Chairman, Joe Pesnola with Hancock Associates. The development of Phase 1, I'd like to go over the phases because they are independent, and we're not exactly sure of the timing of the two. So Phase 1 would work with the existing site features. There's a small 4-car parking lot over to the left of the rectory building. That would remain as is and for use by the rectory. And that's the left-hand side. On the right-hand side of the rectory, there is an existing drive, and there's an existing monument that was related to the St. Peter's Church, and there's 2 columns. And what we'd like to do is work with the existing pavement and develop some additional parking on the the right-hand side of that. The major change would be bringing that driveway through to South Street and developing that as a one-way. We've worked with Eric Eby, transportation engineer, with regards to his initial thoughts of that, and he's all in favor of getting people to not have to come back out onto Gorham. When they get out to South Street, they can either go right and go down Father Ronan, or if they're heading over to the connector, they can head down South Street, or they can loop around to Highland to the set of lights and move that way. So it makes for a much better flow of traffic, rather than having to try to come back out and fight traffic onto Gorham. We do have a sub-parking lot with 16 spaces in it that will be temporary during phase 1, kind of under the pad for the phase 2 building. And that's just to segregate the kind of the commercial portion of the site and the phase 1 site. So phase 1 kind of works on its own, and only needs taking title to that right-hand lot, and kind of leaves the commercial component whole. We would also improve the drainage system under phase 1, provide a new drainage system under the parking lot, when we've presented some details to the city engineer for that and had some preliminary discussions with engineering with regard to that. And walkways, landscaping, all of that would be developed as part of phase 1. Phase 2 would build upon that idea of a central spine, one-way traffic from Gorham through to south, utilize the existing curb cut on Gorham and the curb cut developed under phase 1. The other curb cut on Gorham would be closed off and would have a parking lot expansion around the back of the rectory to support the full build of the 48 units. More walkways, develop the landscaping, the drainage would already have been installed, utilities would already have been brought off. So phase 2 really is about the building, the second building, or the expansion of the phase 1 building, and the expansion of the parking to bring us up to the 61 spaces.
Hi, I'm Cliff Bomer. I'm one of the architects who's working on the project. And one thing I wanted to emphasize is what Madeline mentioned, which was our good fortune to work with the Historic Commission. We got some tremendous input from them. And it was extremely important to us because the design is based on a number of things, but foremost was historic sensitivity. As you know, there are a number of really important historic structures. The Rectory building is the obvious one that's the closest. The courthouse across the street is also a really beautiful building. There's a wonderful iron fence that goes around the site that we intend to use, retain and modify, adapt it to the new development. And Joe mentioned that wonderful piece of the church that is left at the entryway there, which we are going to maintain and continue to have that as an important element. The reason we have these images of details and the historic context is that has been a driving force from the very beginning, both with things like the fence, but also the proportions of the windows, the way the massing works. If you especially think about the courthouse across the street, it has kind of several big moves. It's in essence, our really number one idea was to enhance the character of the neighborhood. It's an incredibly important site given the visibility, especially when you come up Gorham Street, come off the connector. Second thing that we were really trying to work with is making the streetscape much nicer. As you know, across Father Ronan Street, there is a large housing development there with some rather large buildings as well, buildings that are taller than the building we're proposing, in fact, as you move deeper into that development. And we really wanted to make the street a nice street between the two developments. And one way we did that was by making all of the lower level units or townhouse units. So that's why if you look at the street elevations, you see a lot of entry pieces along the street. We provided multiple entries, so there would be individual elements into the building to make the sidewalk a much nicer place to be. And finally, one of our biggest goals has been sustainability. This building will be designed to exceed LEED Silver standards. It will be incredibly efficient and use materials wisely. The materials that we're proposing on the building, which of course relate back to the historic, we are using long-lasting materials, including a lot of brick at the lower level, and then cementitious siding, hardy plank for the upper levels, both clapboard style as well as some panel style. One thing that the Historic Board worked with us a lot on was the massing of the building, and we've pushed the top level of Phase 1. Madeline was correct, Phase 1 is 6 stories, and the top story in Phase 1 we pushed back far from the edge of the building and have really tried to respect the cornice lines that we picked up from the rectory building right next door. So overall, I think that kind of sums it up. We've been very sensitive to the idea of filling that corner in and making something that will be very sensitive and supportive of the existing historic fabric in that neighborhood.
The second drawing in, is that what the proposal will be looking like? Yeah, absolutely, sure. Yeah. We have all these pictures here, so I might as well make a couple of comments on a few of them.
Yeah, nice presentation.
That rendering right there, could you explain that to us? Yeah, I mean, anything on that easel? Sure.
Let me go through those. This is looking at
Excuse me, just so people at home can hear, if you could pick up the microphone, that'd be great. Thank you.
If you want to step on that side so I can see better. Yep, there we go. Thank you very much.
Is this working? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So this is the longer elevation of Phase 1 as seen from Gorham Street. One thing I didn't mention, I'm sorry, these are those multiple entries I'm talking about, which are kind of a takeoff on the entryway into the rectory building now. At the corner of Gorham and Father Ronan, we have a small community center that's associated with the development. So this is a kind of public entry there. And these are individual entries into 2-story units. This is the view from the parking lot. So I'll go over to this rendering. So that's if you're in the parking lot looking at the long elevation of Phase 2 and the short elevation of Phase 1. The next one, and actually I'll go to this one next. This is a pretty important elevation because this is what the building will look like at the end of Phase 1 without the Phase 2 building yet constructed. It was very important to us not knowing how much time might pass between getting the funding committed, that the Phase 1 building really needs to be a complete structure in itself, both aesthetically and functionally, the way that it worked on the light, relative to parking and drainage, circulation is all part of the Phase 1 building. And then this is that street elevation, the 5-story piece that's along Father Ronan Street, right across from the existing elderly development. I think some of the other things I was talking about, which was some good feedback we did get from the commission, was breaking down the scale of the building so that it kind of built up to the height as it goes around the corner. Taking the really most precious material and putting it at the level of the building where it will be most appreciated and make a connection across to the rectory building. And then, as I mentioned before, stepping back the top floor so that when you're actually viewing it from the street level, that's significantly recessed back. I don't know what else to say. That's
No, that's my question. Yeah, I was just curious how if you could explain that easel piece.
I think, I know one thing I wanted to say, because this I think will be a really nice element, is remember the whole site is ringed with a really nice ornamental fence. And so we're modifying the fence so that it will articulate at every entry into the building. We'll wrap the fence around and continue that nice piece of fabric into the various individual entries along the main elevations.
Any
I
of the
think
board members have any questions for the architect?
I'm sure everybody remembers this,
Yes.
how incredibly close to the rectory building that huge church was. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question at this
Sure,
point.
go ahead.
We did issue the historic permit for this property, the historic board, at our last meeting a couple of weeks ago. And yes, it was a very productive meeting, and I think we've enhanced what you're trying to do here. We issued the historic permit with like 6 conditions, most of which were just, submittal and review and approval of final details relating to materials and landscaping and things like that. But there was one item on here that may impact the site plan itself, and that was, when we looked at these buildings, we felt that, the top penthouse type areas on the elevations that created a broken line effect, if you look at it. Instead of looking at just one roof line, you remember the
Yeah, I do.
conversation? Yeah.
Yep, I do.
And most of that, as I recall, is mechanical equipment.
That's right.
One of the alternatives presented was to take that mechanical equipment and put it in a small separate building on the ground, and which would affect the site plan, and which is our purview. And I'm just wondering what that,
Well, and since we haven't, until we get further along in approvals and assurance of funding, we haven't developed the drawings any further. But we are still very committed to the idea of minimizing any mechanical penthouse area that would, extend the height of the building more, setting it back to the greatest degree possible.
yeah, it would just look nicer that way, although it might be difficult to see it,
I think it will be really difficult to see, but
Yeah.
we're on the same page about that. We want to
Yeah,
get it down
okay.
lower.
Sure.
One reason that, again, it was an excellent point, there was a question of why do you put the mechanical equipment on the top of the building, at least as large as we're showing it there? And the reason that we're showing it is that there's a lot of ledge on that site, and we haven't really fully explored what it might cost if we created the basement. So as designed right now, this building is a slab on grade structure. But we truly haven't developed it quite far enough yet to know how short we could get that penthouse, what we'll actually see as far as ledge. We have done borings around the site and test pits, but it's, our experience is that you really can't, until you're really there digging away, it's hard to know what you're going to find.
all I have right now.
Any questions, Jim?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just, I think to Madeline, if I may, just more on the parking, and I know you mentioned as the model for your other facilities that one parking space seems to work, but I'm just curious in your models, I know you mentioned it's 60% of the medium income will be the criteria for support families in there. $55,000 a year, and that can conceivably be 2 people working, I see, and I'm just wondering how can you take, the existing models and apply it to this, and I'm just curious how you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. All of our properties have the same income structures. So, for example, the last 3 projects we've developed on Moody Street and Merrimack Street that you may be familiar with, the school renovations, those all have the 60% area median income, and they all have 1 parking space per dwelling unit or less, and we are finding that it meets the needs of the residents. The other thing that I think you realize probably is that the commercial parking spaces will be available to the residents in non-business hours, so evenings and weekends, so that I think will help too.
Sure, okay, good, thank you.
Just an additional point with that, we're in the UMU. We do have the Gallagher Terminal and the Joseph Early structure, which are in fairly close proximity to the site. And notwithstanding the income, that's an allowance in your bylaw for a 50% reduction in the required parking if those facilities are within 1,500 feet. So
Is the Gallagher Terminal within 1,500 feet, is it?
if you go across South Common.
The way to go
And at public land, South Common's right there. I think there's actually a diagonal walkway that.
Across Thorndike and across the Common and across housing, okay. We should revisit that, yeah.
That's a special permit that you have to apply for.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
It's a special permit for the residential.
Residential.
For the commercial, it's a 50% automatic reduction. Yeah, but they're both right around that.
And I think there's a fair amount of on-street parking there that's probably at a premium during the daytime, but, you know, after business hours is more readily available when the school's on session, the court is closed, so, you know, there's probably an opportunity for some on-street parking around that facility as well. How long do you anticipate, if you know, between Phase 1 and Phase 2?
As short a time as possible. It's, you know, there's a lot of competition for the funding, and we're hoping that they will be consecutive. We've got a lot of support that's been expressed by the state, but we really don't know, which is why it was important to us to make sure Phase 1 is completely self-sustaining.
Okay. You're not required, I'll just ask the question, if an approval is given and you start Phase 1, to do Phase 2 within a certain amount of time, or once you start, you've started?
Not from the funder's perspective, there's no, right, no. I mean, the state will want to see them as distinct, independent projects as well.
But I mean, I'm sorry.
Doing them either simultaneously or very close
Right.
to one another, and we've made that case
Yeah.
to our funders, so I'm hoping that.
But just from a permitting standpoint, are you required to do it within a certain amount of time? I know you're required to start within a certain amount of time, but.
Well, there's some tax credit issues, right, of finishing it within a certain amount of time. Yeah.
More
And she knows
curiosity than
that's-
anything else, I don't know.
I think the question is with regards to the term on the special permits. Special permit's 2 years. If we start Phase 1, I think we will have started the project, so therefore that limitation goes away. So I don't think there's any impediment from a special permit lapsing standpoint to
Yeah, that's what I was
to the
wondering. I know
time.
as long as you start within the 2 years, you're good, but can you do Phase 2 in 30 years? I mean, it's just curious. I've never run into it, so I don't know the answer to it.
But, Joe, just as a question, some of the work that you'll be doing on Phase 1 would be attributed to Phase 2, at least for the infrastructure, right?
Yes, a lot of the infrastructure, drainage and connections will be
So
done.
that would be the argument that
The
it's been
curb cuts will be done. As far as, you know, getting that connection to South Street, so yes.
There'll be an idea like, you know, we've already started with Phase 2 because the infrastructure has been
Right,
started.
all the services are
One can stand on its own
Technically,
basis,
maybe.
independent on phase.
there. Completely.
Elevator, community room, a staircase, you know, so that would be an argument.
So I guess what we're talking about time, how long would it take to do Phase 1 itself?
Probably 12 months, something
12
like
months.
that, at the outside.
We're projecting an 18-month construction period.
For everything,
one.
yeah.
Great.
Any of the boards have any further questions? No? Mr. Flood, anything else on behalf of the applicant or yourself? No. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Imagine we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Nice project.
How long's it been now? That church has been down, huh? Joe, how long has that church been down now? I forget.
Brian Martin was the city manager. He's the guy that gave the order to take it down.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
It was
Oh, yeah.
stones.
I mean, especially all the lawyers out there with their cards up by sitting at the courthouse.
Yeah, it's right there.
That's the other question, too, that courthouse gonna be there.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Well, the question is what the funding is on that with everything else in the state. Thank you, good luck.
But it's a nice project.
Brian Martin, city manager on 86? He said, Brian, this is it. Next matter on the agenda we have is a maintenance plan review for Walgreens at Middlesex Street and Wood Street. In order to satisfy condition placed on the site plan and subdivision approval of the Walgreens development project located at the intersection of Middlesex Street and Wood Street, the board will review a proposed maintenance plan for street infrastructure improvements associated with the project. We did receive a summary of the request in the packet. I think it's spelled out in detail. And anything further that Division Plan and Development want to add in regards to this maintenance plan review? And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
I could just say that this is a maintenance plan in scope that the transportation engineer, DPD, worked pretty closely with the transportation engineering firm that's working on behalf of Walgreens. And so we agreed on the scope, and then the cost of maintenance was presented to us, and then a number of departments vetted that number and have agreed that that would cover an escrow account to provide that level of maintenance. So.
Attorney Flood, do you
It's my understanding that the figures and the amount of work that had to be done has been agreed upon, and I guess it's a good guide for what you're going to have to do in the future. But it's my understanding that traffic engineer and Vanessa and Associates agreed on these figures and the scope.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question.
absolutely.
And a more, I guess, to Aaron, the thermoplastic pavement markings, it says the replacement all pavement markings within the limits of the roadway improvements twice after initial installation. Is there a projection of how many years that will take us out?
Yeah, typically thermoplastic lasts between 5 and 7 years. It's a much longer time frame than water-based paint markings. However, based on the amount of trips that are experienced in this corridor, Eric was assuming that it would be a much shorter period, that it would be between 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
So that's the reason that in the estimate we decided that the scope was appropriate to require enough to replace it twice.
Okay, because my concern was at least 10 years, so worst case scenario would be 9 years, maybe it takes us out to 15 years. Because the initial thermoplastic, let's say it lasts 3 years, and then we replace it, let's go at 3 years, and then, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, good. And that's, when you see the considerable cost, $19,910, I mean, that was my concern relative to that. I think that's a fair schedule that I was looking for, at least something that took us out 10 years on that issue, so. I'm certainly satisfied with that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any of the board members have any questions?
I have a comment. I think what's been presented to us, makes a lot of sense in the way it's organized in terms of replacement and estimated cost. I don't know how else you could, really come up with this. I think it's a good job. And also to include the warranty period of 6 months to the equipment. Oh, no, I meant the city engineer has requested that a final inspection and test of the equipment be completed prior to the start of the 6-month warranty period is an important point that should be written into the verbiage here, yeah. Back here.
So I believe we'd need a vote to accept this, as this was one of the conditions that we imposed. It did come back before the board.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept the maintenance schedule and cost summary that was presented.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. That motion has been approved.
Thank you. Good night.
How soon do you think we'll be seeing this project come back? The last one.
I'm gonna file, want to be in for the November 7th meeting. So when is that? That's got to be the next filing date?
This Friday.
This Friday.
Well, you're talking about for the Gorham Street project?
I have it here.
Yeah, I think it actually is
What do you,
next Friday.
what date, look for Mr. Flood, November 17th?
November 7th, I think.
Submittal deadline for agenda is the 28th. Submittal for public hearing is October 7th. I'm sorry, that's for November 7th.
October 7th, should got to be in this week, right?
This Friday.
I mean, if that's a November 7th meeting, then we have the 21st after that one.
Yeah, I think they want to try to get it in
Okay,
this week. I'm all set.
okay, thank you, thank you. All right. Moving along, I believe, let me see, we didn't have any ZBA notices this evening. Any further notices from budding towns? I don't think we had any. I think we had most of those at our last meeting. So I think we'll move along. Any further general correspondences? I'll start with Division of Planning and Development.
Nothing that I can think of
I
at
know
the
you gave us a
moment.
couple of handouts earlier, so.
Yeah, the,
NEMCO.
There's an EBCOG meeting, if anybody's interested in that, for the October 14th annual meeting. Moving on, does any of the board members have any follow-up? Hearing none, would entertain a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, we are adjourned, thank you, everyone, good night. Red Sox or anything else?